You've got a queer shape, haven't you? Morning world, welcome to Friday, 2nd of February. I've had a surprising number of folks message me and ask me, and some people actually ask me directly to my face what my opinion is of all the aggravation going on with farmers and the EU, and in Germany, France, Belgium, all seems to be sort of rolling on and causing mayhem. What my opinion of it is, and would I join in if it spread to the UK? We'll talk about that in a minute. First, right, you've more or less finished that off, have you? I came down first thing this morning and kicked this all up, but it is time for a fresh bale. You've got plenty out there, they've got plenty out there. We'll give these guys a bale and then we're going to go in the house because it's bloody cold, and we're going to talk about protesting. Should move the tractor. Do you know what? We'll have you. So while we're doing this, if you just gather your thoughts, and bearing in mind our TV, our national TV, hasn't really talked very much about these protests in France and Germany. So a lot of you probably won't know much about it. So unless you've seen it on social media. So it's been all over YouTube and Facebook, stuff like that. And it is on the news in Germany and France, but even over there, they've only put it up because they've had no choice, really, because it is all over social media and people are talking about it. But when you see miles and miles of tractors stopping the motorways and tipping rubbish everywhere, does that, for all of you non-farmers, does that give you reason to sympathise with the farmers, or are they actually alienating themselves? So, because at the end of the day, I think it's going to be the consumer that solves this problem, not necessarily the farmer, and I don't think the consumer is going to do anything about it unless they know, and they don't. They need to be told. They need to be educated in, and not talked at, not bellowed at, not instructed, but educated. Because they don't know. And maybe it's down to people like us YouTubers that support this sort of thing to actually spread the message. Right, we'll get into that. Let's get fit these guys because they're all champing at the bit to get this bale. I might have put you a little bit low. Let's cut you down there. That bale's on the bottom. He's not very good on this end. So we're going to have to flip him over because they're not going to want to eat that bit. I wish I'd noticed that before I took the net off. Oh well, makes life more interesting, doesn't it? they got their heads out of there, all right? Okay, so you've had a little minute to think about it. So what do you think when you see hundreds of farmers in their big, shiny, £150,000 tractors driving around, setting fire to stuff, tipping crap on the roads, basically causing mayhem? I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be fairly unhappy if that happened in this country, especially if you didn't know why. I mean, why do people protest? I mean, we had the doctors protest and go on strike. We've had railways going on strike and protesting, and it's nearly always got something to do with money. And I don't think this is much different really in France, Germany and Europe. So as I understand, the governments, EU governments or the local governments are thinking of either scrapping subsidies on fuel. Now, bearing in mind that this fuel that they're talking about scrapping all the tax deductions on is what produces your food. And if that happens, then the cost of your food is going to go up. So you can't produce something for nothing. It costs. There is a lot of expense. To run a £150,000 tractor all day, you're probably talking 300 or 400 quid if he's on full chat. And that adds up. Okay, so that has to go on the bottom line, or added to the bottom line of what it's costing you for your pint of milk, your loaf of bread, your bowl of cereals, your beef, your chicken, your pork, whatever else. There's a production cost for everything. And farmers, the same as every other business, would like the opportunity to actually earn a living at it. I mean, a lot of us do it because it's in our blood, we can't help it, we love it. I mean, I don't do this for money. The tree company spent 25 years propping up the farm because the farm couldn't earn its way. And even now, the farm is, if I didn't have YouTube money going into this and a bit going from the tree company, there's no way I could afford to run this. I do this because I really enjoy it. This is my thing. Anyway, back to the point. It seems to me that governments, especially in the Western areas, we have set ourselves these targets of carbon neutral, of zero emissions, of electric vehicles, of being whiter than white, you know, and we're going to be the people that are going to save the planet because we're going to clean it up. And that's okay. That's what you want to do, but why on food? I mean, you don't have to fly. You don't have to go on holiday. You don't have to have a great big expensive car. But you do need breakfast, dinner, and your evening meal. And the occasional snack in between and a few drinks would be nice. And all these things come from a farm somewhere, whether it's in the UK, in the EU, from Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, Canada, China, even Russia. I mean, all these things, there's a cost to it. To feed you, there's a cost. And to feed your kids and your grandkids, there's a cost. But it seems to us at the moment that because the Western countries have these targets that they have to meet, they're picking on the easy targets. And that's how farmers are viewing themselves at the moment, as the easy target. You know, it's lots and lots and lots and lots of small people, even big farms. If you compare them to massive airlines or huge business, even the biggest farms, are just small people. So we're the easy target. Pick on us, force us to do stuff, or force us to stop doing stuff. And that's what it feels like. It feels like the governments are trying to remove food production from the UK for sure, and obviously the same in the EU, because it's cheaper to buy foreign imports from the poorer countries who will do it for less, who maybe are not tied up under rules and regulations and emission controls and stuff like we are. They're not signed up to all these agreements. So we force all the planetary pollution somewhere else, again, and we turn our countries into big parks, you know, rewilding, reintroducing beavers, and then it'd be wolves and wildcats and bears, and you know, oh, that's fantastic. We're going to rewild the country, and you can go and have a walk in the new forest and get mauled by a bear. Brilliant, a fantastic idea. We won't need farmers to produce food, so they can just plant trees and wildflowers everywhere for the bees and the birds. And then, you know, when you've had your really hard day in your city office, you can go and sit in your little converted barn that you've bought off a farmer who can't afford to keep it, and your little 3 or 4 acres of land, which he had to sell as well because he couldn't afford to, you know, pay his own bills. So you can sort of gradually spread your city folks out into the countryside, and they can enjoy it free, because we won't be farmers anymore. We'll be gardeners. You know, we'll look after it for you. You go and earn all the money in the banks, and then, you know, you can come and pay us a pittance for wandering around. Oh no, you won't, because it'll be free, because there's footpaths everywhere and probably the right to roam. So, and to the farmers, that's what we see. That's whether that's true or not, that's what we see. We see our government basically saying we don't need farmers, we don't need them to produce food. We would like them to replant all the hedges that we told them to plough up after the Second World War because the country was starving. Because now we'd rather have the little birdies and the bunny winnies and all the little fluffy creatures and butterflies, and that's fine. I've got nothing against little fluffy creatures and butterflies, all right, don't get me wrong. But our population is not shrinking, okay? If you look at the amount of people per square mile or per square 10 miles in the UK compared to other parts of the world, we're pretty overpopulated. And all those mouths need feeding. And where's that food going to come from if the boats stop, the planes stop? We're an island, okay? And they seem to forget that we're an island. We're not just relying on farmers around the world to produce food. We're relying on all the shipping companies. And then all of a sudden, once we can't support ourselves, well, then the shipping companies can go, well, you know what? We can charge what we want, because they're going to buy it. I don't know. I mean, this is a random rant going on in my head, and stuff that goes on in my head. So people have asked my opinion. I think blocking roads and motorways and chucking crap all over Parliament buildings has got to be the absolute last resort. Nobody wants to do that. Not over here. We're kind of not wired up that way to protest. We don't want that. We've got other things to do. We've got far better things to do than block the roads and light a fire or set fire to tyres or chuck shit everywhere. That's not what we want to do. We want to just produce our best top quality, high welfare food for our population. And in return, we would kind of like the population to recognise that that's what we're doing. We're not trying to rob folks. We're not trying to get free handouts. Subsidies and stuff like that, we don't need subsidies, okay? We never needed subsidies. All we ever needed was the supermarkets to pay a sensible price for the product that we produce, a very high quality product, And then we wouldn't need subsidies at all, because we could earn a living at it with enough left over for investment into the future, into the next generation, into better equipment, better welfare, stuff like that. Whereas at the moment, the supermarkets are all falling over each other to keep the price to a minimum, which means the next generation of farmers don't have the luxury of a bit of extra to put up another building or to invest in some stock or buy some more land, because every bit of land that's coming up for sale at the moment is being bought up by big business. Okay, if a farm comes up for sale, chances are another farmer can't afford it, so it's being bought by big business for balancing up their carbon footprint. Farming is struggling. Okay, British farming is struggling, and obviously the same story in Germany, France, Belgium, and I'm assuming all across the EU. And folks need to wake up that if you don't have security over tomorrow's meal, next week's meal, next month's meal, if you no longer have that security, because right up until now, you've just gone down the supermarket with your trolley and you've filled it up with all this stuff, and the shelves are full, nothing to worry about. What happens if those shelves start to empty? Okay, what happens if our food security takes a dive and all of a sudden either conflicts around the world or problems with transportation, like now going up through the Suez Canal or the Red Sea, all the hassle there. What was it last night? A shipping container was costing a 40-foot shipping container. It was £1,000 to bring a shipping container from, say, South Asia up through the Red Sea, Suez Canal, up towards the UK. £1,000. It's now £5,000. Pretty sure that's what I saw on the news last night. So all of a sudden, the cost of everything has gone up 5 times. Well, surely, if that's the case, and if that continues happening, if your cheap food from abroad suddenly doubles in price because of shipping hasn't changed, then it's no longer cheaper than home, okay? Then that makes us by far the best value. So all I can say to you folks is you can write into your supermarkets, you can email them, and you can complain and you can wave a flag, and they will ignore you. Okay, you're just treated with the same contempt as somebody with a broken packet. We'll just send you another packet, that's all right. So you'll just be appeased. So the only way anybody is going to really have any effect on this is going to be, you've got to be willing to pay a bit more for your food, because it's still too cheap. You might not agree with that. You'll say, I can't afford my week's shopping now, but it is cheap. Okay, food in comparison to everything else you spend your money on, and bearing in mind it is a physical necessity, and most of the other things you spend your money on are a flippant luxury, perhaps. I mean, you don't need your cigarettes, you don't need your booze, you don't need your holiday, and you don't need your expensive car. But your food, okay, everybody's got used to having it really cheap, and it is cheap. So be willing to pay a bit more for your food. Support the British farmer. Support stuff with the British flag on it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to have a red tractor on it. There are sources of food in this country, myself included. I'll have nothing to do with red tractor, because as far as I'm concerned, it's another form of government control, supermarket control, and tax for nothing, with no benefit. You get nothing in return for having red tractor other than the permission to sell your goods. Go to your farmer's market. Tell Tesco's to go and do one, and Sainsbury's, and all of them. I mean, they're all there at the moment flying the flag. I think all year going, they're going to do an all British thing. Well, that's fine, but at the end of the day, they can do a bit more. But the big Tesco's. I am desperately trying to talk my wife out of shopping at Tesco's, and the only reason she does it, and it'll be the same reason as everybody else, is convenience. You haven't got time to go to 4 different shops to buy your veg here, your meat there, and your fish over there, and your socks somewhere else. You want to go to the big superstore, walk around with your trolley, buy it all in one go, go home, because it's convenient and it's cheap and you haven't got time. So perhaps maybe make small alterations in life and make time for supporting your small local shops, your local butcher, your local green grocer, stuff like that. Support them. Tell the big supermarkets to go and swivel, okay? And that will feed back. And if you can let them know why, it's because you're being really crap to our own food producers, then all the better. So I don't know if I'm going to upload this video. I'm going to watch this back and go, you're talking absolute bloody drivel again, Ian. But that's the problem, is we are so controlled. You have been basically brainwashed over the last 20 years by the big supermarkets of, you can buy everything here and it's cheaper. Well, it's kind of not. And if you look at their profits, yeah, they're making all the money. The farmer is Joe Blogg's farmer, most farmers struggling. You might see the big shiny tractor stuff like that they got on 0% finance over 3 years, plus another 3 years they got to finish financing it, or 3 years and they swap it back and they basically just carry on paying 0%. But that's not building anything. And if the food we produce is worth nothing, if we can't get a decent price for what we're producing, and I'm pretty sure that's what half these governments are relying on. They're relying on us saying we can't afford to do it, so we'll plant pretty flowers and trees. So, yeah, there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes that you and I are not privy to. We don't know what's going on, but there's a plan somewhere, and the farmers think it doesn't involve us. Okay, whatever this plan is, it doesn't involve us. They honestly, sincerely believe they don't need us, and they're taking you along. And one day that could all come back and bite us all right in the ass. Right, on that note, Holly called me up half an hour ago because she made me a cup of coffee, so I'm going to go and have that, and then we'll go and find something else to do.